Welcome to episode 7 of Flies on the Ball. Today we'll be talking about the January transfer window.
So we want to go through all the transfers, all the important transfers in the Premier League, alphabetically through the clubs.
Yep, can do.
Maybe easiest, yeah.
Yeah, shall we start with
Cool.
Arsenal? So, what business did Arsenal do? Well, Arsenal had 1 incoming permanent deal, 12 outgoing loans, and 4 outgoing permanents. So, a lot of players going out, only 1 coming in. Is it enough to sustain a top 4 title challenge, do you think?
I think... I don't think so. I think they're gambling that,
Especially
to get to the summer with. They've put themselves in good stead for the summer, but it's a big gamble because we're not there yet.
The loss of Aubameyang in particular.
Yes.
In context, and we'll get to the other clubs later, but in context, West Ham didn't bring anyone in. Tottenham had difficulties in this transfer window.
Oh, yes.
Man United didn't have a brilliant transfer window. So
Manchester United brought in nobody.
yeah, and they had a few outgoings.
But,
So Arsenal had 2 incomings, but one of them went straight out.
We actually had.
Is
We've got another one. I don't know why he's not on any of these lists, but Matt Turner, the US, one of the 2 main US goalkeepers, came from the MLS.
Okay.
I can't remember which team he was at.
Is he promising?
He's promising as a 27-year-old keeper can be. He's probably apparently the best keeper in the MLS. Apparently.
That's interesting, though. 2 MLS signings.
Yeah. Not.
Do they have a particular
know if it's
scout
all-
who likes to work in America?
I don't know that we do specifically, but we have explored this different market. Not to be so cynical to think that that's the only reason we've gone for these players, but we've done similarly with the Asian market. We've looked at Japan recently, and more recently US, but I don't know anything else about them. That's pretty much it. I don't know too much about it.
Arsenal also have the American connection through their owners.
Yeah.
Yes, and with that club specifically, I think that Austin Trusty. Trusty.
Yeah, no, the Rapids, they're also owned by Stan Kroenke, I think. Or was it?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Did you just buy a player for yeah, okay.
And loan him straight back.
So, are the players... So, Lino Sousa, is that right? Is that how you say that?
I assume it's Portuguese. I think he's Portuguese or Brazilian.
Okay. Well, is he likely to slot into the first team?
No.
No? Is he a kid?
Just no, yeah.
Is he one
Yeah,
for the
I don't
future?
He's a
old.
kid.
I hope so, because he's not.
Can you imagine that?
For any
He's
time
one.
period. Like,
Meanwhile, you had, 15, 16 outgoings? Something ridiculous like that?
16 it says on this possibly outdated list, but yeah.
Quite a few of them
That-
loans.
Most are loans, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly young players who weren't really going to get a look in.
Yeah.
Mixed in with some senior players who also hadn't really been given any chances. Like they weren't. These aren't players that we've missed in our good periods this season. Say some parts of December where we looked good. That team that performed well is still intact at the moment. We haven't lost. We lost. Chambers, Marie, Kolasinac. They're not players who really had any impact.
Would you say that
This
this
season.
activity is essentially clearing out detritus?
Yes, which is something we've struggled with. So it's good to see. It's just something that you'd want to maybe see in the summer when we don't have, like, if we knew we had nothing to play for, which some think something that might be true given we've just been knocked out of 2 cups, but we are still in a race for Europe, and it's not the right time to totally shed all our squad depth.
Yeah.
Without filling it back up.
I've just realised actually that team that you mentioned, the team that's actually been like pretty good. Aubameyang wasn't really in that. was
No,
it?
no. I'd say he's sort of been not like he's not been himself for over a year.
Fantasy football can attest to that.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
one's really
it's a
had him in their
strange
team
thing.
for a while.
It's a bizarre thing to see as I don't know what non-Arsenal fans think, but there's been a lot of denial in forums and things. Whenever talking about him, he's sort of, I don't know what it is when you have players like that. It'd be like if Zaha had a huge drop off, but everyone still sort of looked at him with those glasses.
Nostalgic lens, maybe.
Nostalgic, yeah.
Rose tinted
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of
because from an outside,
yeah.
I feel like from an outside point of view, he's become a bit of a problem child. Kind of, he's been associated with only negative things.
Yeah,
and perhaps getting rid of him also gets rid of all that baggage, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay when he was putting goals in and stuff, but it's gotten to a point where he was visibly like you'd see him on the team sheet and be like, okay, our best players are playing. He's on there. He's one of our best players by name. And then if you watched the game, you wouldn't you'd never think he was a top Premier League player. It was a really weird thing you'd be in denial after at the start of every match. You start every match with a renewed kind of we're playing our best players. Of course, we give ourselves a good chance, and then I forgot he's maintaining this poor form surprisingly, and even after a year, it was always sort of surprised to see him.
He's kind of been on the wane for a couple of years. He was joint top goal scorer 2018-19 season with Salah and Mane, and since then he's slowly gone downhill. But then you have, of course, the incident with not really a training issue.
Yeah, off field stuff, which we don't know too much about. Don't like to comment too much on stuff on that kind of. We don't know too much about it, but
it's basically good to get rid of that.
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's happened so quickly. So as I was saying, all that denial about his drop off has all that. Any positive opinion has kind of just evaporated with his departure. Now it's the minority are sort of looking at it with a bit of with a tinge of sadness. Most people are twisted and think it's been high time for him to go.
Should we? I don't know. Can we grade these teams? Should we grade each team's performance in the window, or?
I think I would give Arsenal a solid F.
F, an Arsenal F. Okay.
I'll say
Farsenal.
Okay, if we're doing an ABC score, I'd give Arsenal between a B and a C, because they got rid of people they didn't need, but they didn't bring anyone in.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, because it's been a somewhat of a clear out.
Yeah, true.
We're going to need to recruit.
It's difficult because this is going to be the baseline that we make every other decision off of, right? So yeah, I'll probably go with a D, because they are in a top 4 race. They are in a top 4 race, so not to bring anyone in is risky, even if you are clearing out.
But at the same time,
you do need to bring someone in to sustain the challenge.
I do want to go on. I don't want to go on to Villa, but just this is the exact kind of. I appreciate that we don't have an infinite amount of money. We are saving wages and stuff. But
you did spend the most in the summer.
We've disappointed people by basically not panic buying. Whether we panic bought or not, people are going to be disappointed. We've ended up not paying Alexander Isak's 90 million euros. I think probably euros release clause. If we'd paid that's a lot of money to just throw. That's a lot of money to just panic.
I feel like you made loads of positive dynamic signings in the summer, spent a lot of money, and this is kind of the reversal. Well, not the reversal, but you brought loads in the summer, now January, pushing loads out. Kind of.
And the players they brought in were young, but
moving
capable.
the squad around.
Yeah.
Right, in summer.
I think
but rating this transfer window in isolation, I'd go with a D, I think.
Oh, it's tough. I think if I went higher than a D would be a little bit of denial, a little bit. So I'll go D as well for this.
Cool.
Villa.
Aston Villa, I think had a good window. They brought in Luca Dean from Everton, capitalised on his argument with Benitez. They brought in Coutinho. But I think they've loaned Target to Newcastle.
They have, yeah.
They have.
So they've had a decent window.
They got rid of El Ghazi as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I guess didn't need him anymore.
They also got Callum Chambers from Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think they got rid of Twan Zabi. He was on loan. I think they've sent him back.
I just noticed that Aaron Ramsey was loaned out.
Yeah.
That's the wrong Aaron Ramsey.
Yeah, Villa they've kind of. I think they've had a good window. They got their business done fairly early on. They've replaced every player they've replaced. They've brought in someone who's you can understand is better in one form or another. Chambers may not set the world on fire, but he's certainly got more experience than he's a good utility player. Coutinho,
it's interesting because
really good on the ball. We all know what he's like.
He's had the impact already.
Luca Dean, one of the best left backs in the league, and fantasy managers would agree because he's had spells where he's been in loads of teams, getting the occasional assist and goal. Then again, that's partly down to him linking up with Calvert-Lewin. So I wonder how he'll fit into Gerrard's system. I think it's been good for Villa.
They've also got Robin Olsen from Roma on loan. I imagine he'll just act mostly as a backup to Martinez. I can't see him starting as much, but still, as a signing.
Good competition for it makes sure that Martinez doesn't get complacent. I doubt he was anyway.
Yeah,
but if you've got a keeper who's
maybe
got a chance of getting first team,
then
yeah.
I just realised Olsen. I recognised his name. I was like, I've definitely seen him before Roma, and he did have a brief spell at Everton on loan.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah,
7 appearances,
that's good.
which is kind of strange.
So Gerrard nicked one of Everton's best players and one of Everton's old players. Excellent.
And a player who scored a couple of goals against Everton.
Yeah, I think they've done well. So they sent a couple, because I think El Ghazi and Target were both like first team players, weren't they?
Well,
they're the only
Target mostly.
Yeah.
Also.
Well, I've seen Villa fans talk about Target in that he was a hard worker, but he lacked guile. He wasn't creative in midfield, so he was good for if you had an engine room in midfield. Really worked hard, but he didn't have the creative nous that newer players in Villa's squad have. So
yeah, so they've replaced and upgraded. Like
you would have thought.
Yeah.
You would have thought they would have
upgrade.
kept. Who's there? They have a backup left back behind Dean now. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe they could have kept, but then if you don't need to, why pay the wages?
And if you've got a utility player, Chambers can move around and do a job.
Exactly. Presumably Gerrard is happy with the squad he got, and I think they've done good.
Yeah. They've also strengthened. Well, I don't know how big a part Target is going to play in Newcastle's resurgence, but anything that anything that strengthens them is always going to get a question mark from me.
How would you grade Villa's transfer window?
Probably a B.
That's really difficult.
Oh yeah, it's early.
B plus.
Yeah,
I'm because I said Arsenal's between B and C. I'd like to give a definite grade, but there's nuance to this spectrum, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
So I'd say between an A and a B. It wasn't perfect, but it was really good. I think
better than most, probably.
I don't really know what their problem positions were. I'm trying to think of their starting strikers. They got Watkins
and Ings as well.
Ings.
Yep.
Well, they're pretty. They seem okay.
Yeah, I'd give them a solid B plus.
Yeah. B plus basically. Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Done well. B.
Didn't they? I'm pretty sure they had their reserves about was it Buendia and how much of an impact he's had. So maybe that's why Coutinho was brought in to.
Because Buendia's a good player, but he hasn't really hit the ground running, has he? So
he's great for Norwich, but
yeah,
Villa he hasn't quite stood out as much.
If they had a target man on the end of Digne and Coutinho's passing, I don't know if Ings is that man, but I don't think Watkins is really
Watkins can be
a target man.
He's yeah, Watkins is really strong. He's fairly. I think if any of their strikers are likely to be a target man as such for that kind of play, then you never know. But yeah, I think Villa had a decent transfer window.
Yeah.
Brentford,
right. Of course, notable perhaps are
Eriksen.
Yeah, if you nostalgic and if you're feeling nostalgic and emotional about transfers, which you can, of course, then I think Eriksen's the best transfer of the window. Because don't know about you, I didn't expect to see him on the football pitch again after his heart attack. Yeah. So it'd be nice to see him on the pitch.
Yeah, it's a bit inspirational, really.
Yeah, he won't play a lot, I think, but his experience and the occasional game time will rejuvenate the side. I think it'd be nice to see.
I
Feel good
guess
factor.
the
Don't
question
underestimate
is,
it.
The question is how much impact will their transfers have? I don't know. When you look at Villa, you see like Coutinho and Luca Dean, you think, okay, they're going to make a pretty immediate impact. And maybe Eriksen will, but it's I don't know. Nothing really jumps out from Brentford.
I'm just seeing like a couple of the loan deals they've made is just sort of players that were kind of on the sidelines. So like Charlie Good or Luka Racic or Marcus Forss, who was like a backup striker. Yeah,
he's looked. Well, I say looked. I haven't really seen him, but I know he's scored.
I know he cultivated this reputation for being a bit of a super sub, but I feel like I'm kind of not surprised that they've loaned him out because they're probably happy with just Tony and what's his name? And Burmo. That's it. Yeah.
I'm looking at Lussell.
Yeah, Jonas Lussell. Yeah.
Ex Huddersfield.
Indeed. I think he was at Everton for a bit as well, actually.
Yeah. I thought he feels like a bit of a Begovic, like just a journeyman, like a kind of one of those Premier League.
Unsurprisingly brought in from
always in the Premier.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly brought in from Midtjylland.
Yeah. I wonder if
who was also owned by Matthew Benham, owner of Brentford.
I wonder if he's going to be I wonder if they're going to use him above Fernandes while Raya's out. So we said last week how important Raya has been, or rather how detrimental Fernandes has been as well. I wonder if they're going to experiment and just throw Lussell straight in there. I don't know. I don't know if he's been starting for I don't know how you
Midtjylland.
Yeah, or when he was at Everton. I don't know. I haven't seen him play since Huddersfield, which is becoming a long time ago. Feels like ages ago, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they've had an okay transfer window. I think Eriksen's addition has bolstered it somewhat, but he may not play a lot. I'm not sure how I'd grade it, really.
They've not lost anyone crucial, have they?
No.
Were there any under threat? Were there any... I don't know. I don't know what their contract situations are.
I mean, there's the whole news recently with Ivan Toney, which
I
wondered if that was going to have some implications on their transfer window, but it doesn't seem to have done so. Still one worth keeping an eye on, though.
Definitely.
I'm going to go with a bog standard C.
Yeah, I agree. That's a solid C for me.
It was Charlie Good.
Yeah, I'm going to see.
It will C for good.
I wonder if he'll incorporate. I wonder if Tony will incorporate that.
If he celebrates a goal, he'll just say,
just
just scream F Brentford at the top of his lungs, and the crowd will go wild because that's a rude word.
So far, I think every team has that we've talked about has got more outgoings than incomings.
Yep, and speaking of which, Brighton is next.
Yes. Brighton, also more outgoings than incomings.
Yep, 6 outgoing loans and 4 outgoing permanent.
I noticed that 2 of them have gone to Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium, who are currently 9 points clear after having been promoted from last season, and they've actually brought in a player from Saint-Gilloise.
Yeah, did they just give him straight back?
Is that what that's...
Yes,
right,
did,
I'm misreading it. Okay.
Wait, they gave him straight back? Why?
Yeah, well, it's like Arsenal did it as well. You buy a player so that you get them in the January window, so you don't have to go and buy them in summer.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The player, so you loan them back.
I was just assuming that they got him and went, no.
Yeah, that's similar to with Brentford and Midtjylland. It's again the owner connection. I wouldn't be surprised actually if Brighton really do pilfer through Saint-Gilloise's squad by the end of the season, because they've done pretty damn well.
Oh, definitely. And they've got money. They've got 13 million for selling Dan Burn to Newcastle. So.
Yes.
No big names, really. Aaron Connolly. I thought Connolly has gone. So he's gone on loan to Middlesbrough. I thought he was all right.
I mean,
dropped off.
He was probably on the sidelines a bit as well. Favouring players like Morpay and Welbeck and I guess Trossard as well. So yeah. That's maybe why they've done that, just to give him some game time, because he's probably not going to get it as much at Brighton at the minute.
He's quite young. Is he still?
Yeah, no, he's still. I'm pretty sure he's still quite young. Like I think he's a youth graduate of theirs. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big one is probably Dan Burn to Newcastle, right?
Oh yeah, Burn. Yes.
Yeah, selling Burn. They weren't dependent on Burn, but he did play some. He played a few games.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They did also finally release Jurgen Locadia as well.
I was just looking at. I want to see how much they sold him for because I'm sure he was their record transfer when he came.
Undisclosed by the looks of it.
Oh, that's not. That's
to Bochum in Germany.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how to grade this one. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
I'd give it a C. I'd say
maybe
yeah,
C.
They've not got rid of any major players that they should have kept, and they've not brought in anyone transformational.
No,
I'd be quite intrigued to see what happens with Dennis Undav because I'm pretty sure he was he's currently been USG, so Union Saint-Gilloise. I'm pretty sure he's been their top scorer this season. Actually,
yeah, but he's still on loan to them.
They just
gone back.
He is.
No,
yeah,
they've loaned one of the other. I just noticed one of the other players.
It's just one worth noting for the future, maybe.
Oh yeah. I suppose in that regard, yeah. If in that regard, it's probably better. I guess for impact on this season, probably a C. Nothing really negative, nothing really positive.
Yeah.
But potential for the future, so maybe caveat that with a plus, C plus.
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe, possibly, yeah.
I'll go with a C plus.
Burnley.
Yes.
Seemed like they were doing okay. I mean, selling Chris Wood, not ideal because they need goals. He's only scored 3 this season, but it's better than nothing. But they've brought in Wout Weghorst.
Indeed.
Which is
almost definitely an upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for half the price that they sold Chris Wood for, so they make a profit and they sell him. And he's got, I think, twice as many goals as Chris Wood this season so far, right?
Yeah, for Wolfsburg.
Played in the Champions League, so pretty solid.
If you want to simplify it, he's basically a better Chris Wood.
Yeah, no, I'm really quite annoyed that Burnley got him. I think that's quite a coup by them, honestly.
It'd be interesting to see if he stays if they get relegated, because it's looking very bad for Burnley, even in that regard.
Yeah.
And it is their only incoming, so it's like, you've replaced what you lost, but you haven't really improved your squad.
He's definitely perfect for their system, though. Like they do kind of thrive on having that sort of big lump of a striker up front, as they did with Chris Wood.
Yeah, and Burnley don't spend a lot of money anyway.
No.
So I think given they lost a striker and they've spent less on a better striker, all they need is for him to hit the ground running, and we'll have to wait and see.
Considering their position in the league table at this point,
they really do need to
bottom of it.
Yeah.
If they don't hit the ground running, I mean, even if he comes good for them, like it might take a few weeks, and by then it could be too late. Especially with the other teams around them.
It's a signing they needed.
Yeah.
So they've done what they needed to do.
Well, there must surely be like other problem positions for them.
Oh yeah, but they don't spend a lot of money, do they? Really?
Historically, no. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's sort of probably what's led to them being in the position they're in this season.
It's partly why Sean Dyche has always been cited as being generally frustrated with the lack of business. He gets it, but yeah, it's like an undercurrent of frustration.
Yeah.
He could do better if he had more money, but he's still doing a good job there.
He got an incoming that's probably better than your outgoing, but
it's
overall,
come with
I don't think
one of the
massively
outgoings.
Improved the squad. Yeah.
One of the outgoings is to one of their rivals for relegation.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
I'm gonna go with a D.
This could all change if he's a good striker.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I'm going to go between. Yeah. I'm going between B and C because it's a good signing, but they could have done more. But they don't really spend a lot. So
yeah, I just think. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say I'd give a solid C as well, really. Just in light of the fact that, Wout Weghorst does seem like a very good upgrade on Chris Wood, but that they could have done business elsewhere.
Yeah. I just think they've not really improved their squad as a whole. They've improved on one player that they had no choice but to gain someone for, because they lost their main striker, while strengthening, presumably without wanting to. If it was a release clause, which I think we think it is.
I was going to say they've kept all their
rivals.
They've kept all their players, all the key players in quotation marks. I say Tarkovsky and stuff. The ones who have gotten them to but they're in this position.
That is true.
Partially thanks to these players that they have. So I don't know. Like, how good is it that they've kept everyone? I don't know. They did need strengthening, really.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I go with a D, maybe pushing on a C. D plus, C minus, C minus.
Okay. C minor.
C minus, but better than Arsenal.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What would you think?
I don't know.
How do you think Chelsea have been doing this window? Because they brought in Dylan Williams from Derby for an undisclosed fee. Dylan Williams they've brought in from Derby. They brought him in on the 24th of January.
But
that's
a strange.
I've really not heard much noise from Chelsea at all. This
yeah, they've done nothing really.
But I suppose, do they need to?
No, they've
Their
got
fans
squad.
would probably say so, but
Their fans probably would say, but there's no way they can get first place, and
at this point, it seems unlikely,
even with their recent poor form, which they'll likely come out of at some point, they still are probably quite safe in third at the minute.
And they've got a few cups. They're still in a few cups that they can focus on. So they didn't need anyone, but
no.
Yeah, I think not exciting, unsurprisingly.
Nothing happened. Yeah. A few outgoings, but no major outgoings.
Did they need any depth? In any
Not
positions?
really, because I just remember.
I would say they did.
Well, I mean, like someone like Chilwell, for instance, was coming back from injury, and I'm pretty sure they've definitely had injuries like around the squad, haven't they? Like some of their starting 11. So that's really been like one of the primary factors in their sort of dip in form.
And you'd expect those players to come back, right?
Yeah, that's probably the reason why they've not bothered going out and getting new signings, because it's maybe not needed. They've got players coming back eventually. So
yeah, pretty solid in their position, I think.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Still disappointing, but there's no major outgoings either, so probably.
How do you rate a window when nothing was meant to happen?
Yeah,
I'll just go
C, right?
You unmarkable.
Yeah, I'd say if average is C, then I'd go C because it's just nothing good, nothing bad.
But but we gave Burnley a C as well, and they got Wout Weghorst.
Well, to be fair, I said between B and the C. I was aiming towards the B. So on this nuanced,
but they lost
scale.
they lost their main striker at the time to a direct relegation rival. So even if their new incoming does well for them, will he do as well for them as Chris Wood does for the other team?
True.
Would they were so simple.
So it's I guess I'm content giving Burnley my C- and Chelsea my C.
I'm thinking as well with Chelsea to get Angerin, because I know Tino Angerin is a very promising, one of their most promising youngsters. To get him out, to get him loaned out again. He was at Lokomotiv Moscow for the start of the first half of the season. Now he's off to Huddersfield just to get your youngsters playing time.
They need
and not have them just not cluttering the team, but like he's not going to get much time at Chelsea at the moment. So that's just one positive from their window.
Speaking of C's, the last of the C's, Crystal Palace, it's got Killian Phillips here as an incoming. Killian Phillips is just, I'm pretty sure, an academy signing, like for the under-19s or something from Drogheda United. The only two signings for Palace are Jean-Philippe Mateta, that's a permanent from Mainz, and Luke Plunge, I think it's Plenge from Derby County, who's gone back out to Derby County because they need all they can get at this point. So that seems fair enough. And then Jacob Montez gone out on loan. He's the young American signing we got. Also loaned out Rob Street to Newport County. I think Jacob Montez has been loaned out to a team in Belgium because there's something to do with like his work permit and things like that, and just like Brexit malarkey and whatnot. So that's why we can't bring him in just yet. And also it's good for him to get some experience, so that's all fair enough. Quite tame, honestly. Palace's window, especially like when we were being linked with the likes of Donny van der Beek and I think Nketiah as well.
I feel like the rumour mill can affect your expectations.
Yeah, don't really need it, to be honest. But with the likes of like Eze and Elise, hopefully starting to hit their stride a bit more. Like Eze coming back from the injury and Elise getting more acclimatised to the Premier League. They'll probably end up being like new signings anyway.
And defensively, Ferguson has to come from injury.
Yeah, as well as that. Yeah.
Plus, you've made permanent someone that was already playing for you, but is an important player.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he's a good, solid backup, I would say, to like Benteke and Edouard as well. Yeah,
Edouard, yeah.
But I mean, Edouard has been played more out on the wing, more so than he has been played as like a main striker. I personally would like to see that change a little bit and him get played more as the centre forward. That like how he used to play at Celtic. But Mateta, I mean, I'm okay with it, but I'm not like completely enthralled by it. Basically,
yeah, he's not needed.
Not necessarily, no. I'm more intrigued to see more of Luke Plunge, though. I looked into his stats just now, and he scored a couple of goals for Derby. He hasn't played that much, so there's not much you can glean from him so far at the minute. But I will place my faith in the Palace scouts for now.
You didn't really need. I don't know if you needed much reinforcing.
Not too much. I mean, another striker would have been nice, and
another striker.
I know, as like but more as like a replacement for someone like Matata. But yeah. To be honest,
backup centre back, maybe,
or that.
There are two very good centre backs, but then you've got Tompkins, who's not going to last for ages,
and it's made of glass.
So maybe another one there, and also someone who can replace Luka Milivojevic.
Yeah, like just
or
having
MacArthur.
Yeah, having like a more advanced kind of defensive midfielder, holding midfielder type would have been quite nice. Like rather than, because we've currently got Luka Milivojevic and Jaga Kiyate, who are both they're good players when they want to be, especially with Luka, but they're mostly sort of destroyer type players. And having someone like Donny van der Beek, I think, would have been really intriguing because he could have just been that more advanced holding midfielder type. Though at the same time, I would have been a bit worried if we had a midfield of Van der Beek, MacArthur and Gallagher, since that's one player who's like 34 years old and is coming towards the end of his contract and is also injury prone, and then two loanees. So that wouldn't have been the most sustainable of midfields.
Possibly why Palace didn't seem extremely determined to get him, Van der Beek.
So ultimately, pretty tame window, honestly, and I kind of think maybe it ought to have been.
Yeah, didn't need anyone really. I'd probably rate that maybe a C.
Yeah, maybe a C.
In no danger. Palace are in no danger and not pushing for Europe. They've made one of the signings permanent and got in a couple of players.
We could push for Europe. We could do it.
Europe.
And brought in a couple of players for the future. So yeah, I guess C.
An average one,
C plus, I guess.
I think we've done a lot of C's, but I think next we might be changing it.
But a lot of them have been quite average, yeah.
Speaking of quite average, Everton.
Quite average. I mean, they've been quite poor this season.
Yeah,
but...
so they've changed manager, Frank Lampard, who I think it's worth noting has no experience in fighting a relegation battle where you're facing adversity basically from day one. So I doubt he will last his 2-year contract. But
he has experience in a blue shirt, though.
Oh, he does have experience in blue, and if that drives him forward, and frankly, that would be an interesting subject for a thesis if he works really well purely because of blue. The colour blue drives him forward. But they lost Luca Dean, they're one of their best players.
They did.
Was
big problem. because of Benitez.
Yeah, because of Benitez.
And then they decided to...
They backed Benitez over Dean, and then 5 days later they sacked Benitez. So they don't have a direction. The club's in a mess, definitely. Yeah. Van der Beek, they got
first
Van der
team
Beek
so far to make more purchases, to have more incomings than outgoings.
Yeah,
so far.
Yeah,
that's
an interesting point.
Dele Alli's coming permanent.
So Crystal Palace were trying to get him for pretty much the entire window, and they didn't. So I guess with that caveat,
I'd say he was
rumoured for quite a few people.
I'd say De Beek was. I think he was linked more than.
Yeah.
There was a clear connection. Loads of players are linked with loads of clubs.
Assuming he did have that choice, though, between Everton and Palace, I can sort of see why he would have gone for Everton. I get that, Everton is a little bit of a... Yeah, basically. I get that Everton is a little bit of a basket case at the minute, but it is a little closer to Manchester compared to London.
And it's only a loan, so if they do get relegated, he doesn't have to stay there.
Exactly.
I can't imagine they'll be starting... They can't be starting all three, like El Ghazi, Van der Beek and Ali. I'm not... One of those, at least, is going to be.
I think it's an okay transfer. I think that it's okay for Everton to bring those players in. I think they've done nothing special there. But I think Van der Beek, I think he's a really good player who's just had a bad time at United. I think El Ghazi's highly competent and won't make Everton worse, which is what is okay, I suppose. And I think Dele Alli's way past it. I think not because he's technically not good enough. I think mentally he's lost his interest. He lost his drive years ago. I think he peaked in 2016, 17, 2018, around then.
Yeah, Spurs fans are saying it's been like 4 years.
Where he got 20 goals.
He peaked years ago. Yeah, he was one of the best players around in loads of fantasy teams, and I think his is a case of he's lost interest. He's definitely got the technical ability. It's just, will he have the interest? Will Lampard be able to get it out of him? So that's a risk there.
They of course they lost Luca Dean, and they've replaced him with Ukrainian left back, young Ukrainian left back Mikalenko, who I believe was part of that sort of young contingent of youth graduates that Dynamo Kiev had that won the league. That's about all I know really about Mikalenko, to be honest. And also, I think he was part of the Ukraine team that did quite well in the Euros. That got quite far in the Euros. So perhaps a decent signing, perhaps a decent replacement for Luca Dean. Only time will tell.
I'm not sure how to rate this one for Everton, really, because there's so much risk involved. New manager, possible relegation battle. None of the players they brought in are definitely going to work.
It felt very chaotic from the start. I mean, you have two different managers during the transfer window, and each manager will want their own thing.
Lampard joined late as well.
There is no way Lampard has had time to assess that squad.
No.
So
I'm giving this at least a D.
It's really tricky because we don't know how it's going to pan out, but it does reek. It smells.
Yeah.
It's got a funny smell.
Smacks of desperation,
that
especially with Dele Alli.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that Ali will work. So
I'm sorry, Everton.
I'm going to go with D.
I'm sorry, Everton, but you do have this
player.
kind of reputation. You have
Solid
cultivated
D.
this reputation now of where players go to die almost. And I can't help but think that the same may happen with Dele Alli.
yeah,
Lost a good player, potentially in a relegation battle, and had a chaotic window with two different managers. And a D.
D.
I'm giving it a Luca D.
Hey!
So Leeds then.
Mateo Joseph Fernandez was our only incoming, and he's coming into the under-23s.
I already have a rating for this, but carry on, please.
Basically, Mateo Joseph Fernandez is a replacement for Gelhardt, since Gelhardt is no longer really... He doesn't get any time with the under-23s anymore because he has to be with the first team because we've got no players. Other incomings? No. So we were supposedly after Brendan Aronson from RB Salzburg. That looked pretty promising. He looked like a good player. But ultimately it went nowhere. So
you were rumoured with Minamino for a bit as well.
Yeah, so that was specifically as a replacement for Somerville. The Salzburg thing is I find interesting because they don't want to buy him now when they can buy him in the summer, but because they don't want to pay over the odds for him now. But at the same time, in the summer, he might be more expensive because he has add-ons for his contract that might be hit. So the club will want to recover more costs from him. Plus, he might perform really well for the rest of the season. So they might want more, and it might end up with a bidding thing. So I don't know when the difference is just a few million quid, but in footballing terms, that's not a lot. Like, if you are going to go back in the summer, why take the risk that you're going to get into a bidding war? If he's a player that you do think really will fit into the squad. So it was a bit, I don't know, disappointing and weird not to continue that. Minamino was, so apparently Somerville wanted to leave because he doesn't think he's getting enough game time. I mean, he has had game time. We've probably got more wingers than any other position. So, he doesn't get a whole lot behind Rafinha, James and Harrison, and why would he? He's young, he's not as good. I don't know why he wanted to leave. It's kind of just seems a bit off.
It's good to see that there are it's good to see no major names. It's good not to see Phillips and Rafinha in the outgoing section.
I don't think there was any. Was there any substance to that? I think West Ham merely spread those rumours, so they gave everyone the impression that, hey, we're a big club, we're capable of getting these players and these players. They were never going to get them in the first place. I think that was just West Ham just trying to up their own portfolio.
Well, the thing is, so a lot of people were panicking because Rafinha was linked with Bayern before, and I never thought there was any substance to any of those rumours, because why would any team which is so struggling with injuries decide to get rid of their best players in the January transfer window? And it's as well. Some of the figures coming out were ridiculous. Like there was one that Liverpool are going to put a bid for 30 million in for Phillips. It's like, well, no, they're not, because they can't be that stupid. We're not going to sell him for we're not going to sell him at all, let alone sell him for 30 million.
It did look like West Ham.
January.
It looked like West Ham had just 50 million quid burning a hole in their pocket. They offered I saw the same amount offered for like 3 different players across Europe.
I think it was just a facade with
Just
West
to
Ham.
say,
Just saying, we are capable of doing this.
Yeah, so we didn't lose any of our best players, but I never expected us to. Should we have had more incomings than just a kid for the under-23s? Given our injury situation,
I think
probably.
So.
But at the same, it's really difficult because on the one hand, we have had a decimated squad the entire season.
Yeah.
And we are still 7 points clear of the relegation zone. You would think that as players come back, they will slot back in and we will start trending upwards. And, we sort of somewhat seen a bit of that, and then not in other places. So, we've done remarkably well for what we've had, and we expect those players to come back. So did we need transfers? Probably not. But are we going to push really further up the table where we want to be without those transfers? Also probably not.
What about without?
The one thing I think...
Sorry.
The one thing I think we should have got is a replacement for Cody Drama.
That's what
we sent out online.
I was just going to say, you mentioned him in a good light. We talked about him positively.
I thought he did really well when he did it, but then he decided he wanted to leave.
But now without him, who is there? Just no backup for Ayling? Is that how it is?
There's Shackleton, who is injured. Dallas, who also has to cover Firpo, and pretty much every other position on the pitch.
He's a Swiss Army knife. He is, Dallas.
Yeah, he really is. So I don't know. Sort of we have cover, but also not enough. I would have hoped that they had got someone in to replace Drama in that position. But again, they're probably expecting Shackleton to be back soon.
How would you rate the window for Leeds?
Pretty non-window. It's really tricky because when you think about the players coming back, and you think about the context of where we are in the table, considering the players we've had the entire season, like Phillips, our best player, arguably Rafinha or Phillips, but one of those is our best player. We've been without Phillips the entire season. Bamford, his work rate off the ball, his play in the box, we've sorely missed that, and he's been out most of the season, and yet we're still in an okay position. So on that front, it's not too bad. I'd probably go with a C, but with all the other teams around us bringing players in, granted, Everton chaotically.
That sways my thinking. The fact that the teams around you have been very proactive and got loads of players in. That's why I'm not going. I'd go for a D rather than a C.
Same.
Yeah,
because
that's what
you could have. Compared to your nearest rivals, you didn't really do anything, and you were linked with some players.
That said, Bamford's expected to be back. We should hopefully have Forshaw back.
They'll get injured in training.
Someone will get injured in training. Yeah, it's really
Bamford
tricky.
out for 6 months.
Yeah, well, Phillips should be back in March, maybe sooner.
Well, I think the window itself you can rate as a D, but the season as a whole, Leeds should be okay.
Yeah,
it's just that it wasn't average. It was below average in my opinion primarily because they were linked with some players and their rivals were all busy.
Yeah. Had we got Aronson, I would have said that this was a good window because we need that creative attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Because that's something we've been missing really since Hernandez. So we've tried to fill that role with other players, but it's not really worked. And sorry, we've talked about Leeds for way too long. But yeah. So had we got Aronson, it would have been a good window. Without it, pretty poor, but I'm not worried. So yeah, I'd go with a D for the window. Yeah.
Leicester. I'm surprised at this one actually, because considering some of the not even necessarily the injuries. Like I know that they've still got Johnny Evans out. Jamie Vardy, I'm pretty sure, is still out as well. I really figured they would go and get at least another centre back because I know that they've been moaning a fair bit about Soyuncu for much of the season.
Which is I'm surprised by that because I still rate him.
They've got
Leicester fans have watched them more.
Yeah,
than I have.
They've still got Amate as well, and Vestergaard. But yeah, I'm really quite surprised they haven't actually gotten anyone. Really,
you've still got Fofana. Fofana's been out. How long's Fofana been out? Jesus.
Yeah,
but didn't he get his leg broken in pre-season? Was that him?
Careless.
That does that to a person, doesn't it? Oh, really?
Yeah. They haven't really done much have they? This transfer window.
Yeah, and I'm surprised because they're not where they would want to be in the table either.
Yeah, they're underperforming, but is that due to squad quality or lack thereof?
Well, again,
I think the squad. There's enough in the squad there to be better than they are, but is there enough to get fourth? I don't think so.
Certainly not this year. But again, injuries. So you'd expect some of those to be coming back again. So I don't know. It's tricky. I can't go and give Leeds a D and then give Leicester an E or an F.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a pretty similar situation in terms of you've got a lot of injuries. You're not where you want to be, but you'd expect as players come back to start trending
I guess,
up.
In terms of the forward situation, with Vardy out, I forget how long he's out for, but I'm pretty sure it's for some time. But they are getting...
backups that are capable.
Yeah, they are obviously getting Iheanacho back because Nigeria went out of AFCON sooner than expected.
Daka's quite good.
And then, there's Patson Daka, who they're probably wanting to place their trust in a bit more.
I would say it's between a C and a D, I think.
Yeah, C minus, D plus, one of those.
Yeah,
I'm getting really bogged down in these letter grades.
I'm going to go with a D plus. I think it's a fairly similar situation as Leeds, except slightly less dire.
I think an E maybe almost, or like a D minus. Because I'm really surprised that they've not gotten anyone. No one to go into the first team.
But they're not in any danger. You could.
It's not about danger.
I think it's just more about
it's about ambition.
Yeah, but you could have this season as a write-off with the intention of bringing your players in, also training up players that wouldn't normally be in that, and therefore increasing your
perhaps.
Can you write a season off halfway through?
Your squad. As in write it off as in we're not going to get into Europe, but we can focus on building the squad that we have. As in building those players up and getting everyone back.
But that might be
a
proactive, more of a rational way of looking at it. But what about fan expectations and so on?
And January is such a good opportunity to be proactive as well. So
it's meant to kind of buttress whatever you're doing. It's meant to either sustain a challenge up the table or push you up. It's not meant to you're not meant to reform a whole squad.
No.
Which is what Newcastle are doing, but they are in extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
So Leicester, I think, could have done more. So I'd definitely do. I think, D, Leicester.
Yeah.
At least.
I'm gonna go with a D.
I get the E though.
Yeah, I'll say D as well. But I think they've maybe set themselves up a bit like Arsenal in that they're not doing nothing now for the sake of it. But I think they, with all the restrictions that come with the January window, with being ridiculous prices being thrown around, I think they'll be in a good position to make these missing incomings in summer.
Because you have to think about this window in a broader context. It's not a one-off change. It's not a one-off thing that's going to change your season. It's meant to be. It's linked to summer, and it's linked to the pre-season. It's linked to the previous half of the season. It's linked to It's not a one-off thing.
That's the weird thing.
Taking it out of context is a bit dangerous.
When can you grade this window, for example? Maybe at this point, can we grade the summer window? Maybe in the summer we'll be able to grade last summer.
We can grade it in relation to where they are at the moment and
how we expect these to
and what their rivals have done.
It might go absolutely tits up. Like we could say, Arsenal had what did we give Arsenal, a D in the transfer window, and then they go and somehow get third
C
place.
or B. I can't remember.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit.
Yeah,
I don't
I was high. Yeah, I was a B or C primarily because they got rid of dead weight.
Yeah, I think I went with a D.
How dare you?
But yeah, we could give them these scores now, and then they go and get third, and then it's like, well, they definitely didn't need anyone in the transfer window, and then they got rid of dead weight, so it was an A.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose in retrospect, all these grades could change.
Well, that's the beauty of the season. That everything changes. You can't really give a prediction now based on the entire season. It's kind
Exactly,
of it's
but it's fun to try.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Speaking of fun,
Liverpool.
Oh,
Liverpool.
Mr.
one
Diaz.
major incoming.
One incoming, and no real significant outgoings other than Phillips.
Nat
maybe?
Phillips has gone to
Nico,
Bournemouth.
Nico Williams.
Nico Williams
Nat
has
Phillips.
also gone out on loan.
There's this website that does this measure of like how good particular players are in like each position, and Nat Phillips is still very high on that list, and it's because
He's not bad.
Well, it's based on like the last games he's played, but of course he hasn't played that many games in recent times.
It's a shame because last season he got a chance to help Liverpool avoid, kind of a very
relegation.
Poor,
I'm sure he's
very poor
great,
season.
but yeah, I'm just taking aim at that list.
Yeah, I think the grading can be a bit perverse. I think Phillips is undermined by the fact that he's at the same club as Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah.
And so if you're anywhere near him, unless you're playing really well, you're going to be associated with him and seen him poor light. But Phillips is highly competent. He doesn't do anything badly.
Yeah.
He'll be a very good addition. He will stand out, I think, in the Championship.
It'll be a good opportunity to get some minutes, obviously.
Definitely. And I genuinely think Phillips is good enough for the Premier League.
And also, like with Bournemouth are challenging for for the league as well, so that would help as well.
He brings a bit of experience and a bit of nous. And speaking of incomings, I think Diaz is
quite a signing.
Tremendous.
Yeah,
he's tremendous.
I do wonder if he's going to displace, if any, of the front three.
Well, that's where the talk's kind of circulating around. Will he displace in the short term or long term Sadio Mane, because that's Diaz normally plays on the left, or is he part of the future front three? Because Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, and Mo Salah all turn 30 in the summer. So is the next front three going to be Diaz, Jota, and someone else?
I figured that as well.
Plus,
yeah.
aren't Salah's wage demands contrary to Liverpool's?
Yeah, there's still a disagreement over that contract problem.
Yeah.
So
which will probably get sorted out, but you've got backup and expensive backup.
And Diaz is. I can't speak highly enough of him. He is really, really good. He's the most highly rated player in Portugal, and definitely Colombia's best player. He's young, about our age actually, and he looks really, really good.
Not long
ago. Very interesting though if he doesn't play, because not many teams could afford to spend that much money on a player that doesn't play.
Oh, don't worry, he will be playing. He will be playing.
You wouldn't have said that back when when all their front three were undroppable, when Mane and Salah were really together, just at a peak. But now I think Mane's form leaves that position more open to. I don't know if Jota moves. I don't know if it means Jota and Firmino are going to play more, or Diaz is going to come in. I don't know.
Yeah, Mane's been slowly. Mane peaked 2017, 18, 19 around then, slowly on the decline, but he's still doing well. He scored 10 odd Premier League goals, I think, this season so far. So he's having another good season. So he's not exactly going away, and he's been very good for Senegal in AFCON. He was very good in their quarter-final against Equatorial Guinea, I believe. Yeah. Good assist.
Powerhouses.
Diaz is just. So Diaz is not. He's not a signing for the future. He's a signing for the present and the future. And also Liverpool tried to get that Fulham youngster.
Carvalho.
And
Carvalho.
They didn't get him in time, but it seems likely that they're just going to get him in the summer. Both parties seem to have agreed a deal that's between 5-10 million, and they'll just pick him up in the summer instead. So I think it's a decent transfer. The reason why Liverpool went for Diaz now is primarily because they had talked that Tottenham and then United were showing interest, and so they decided to accelerate their plans.
He's he's also had really good form this season for Porto. I think it's like 14 and 18 or something. 14 goals in 18 games.
And 6 assists, I think, roughly around that. Can't remember the numbers off the top. Yeah, he's very highly rated.
And yet 33 I don't know if it's Michael Edwards? Whoever it is who manages to do these
Michael Edwards.
Damn it.
Because Michael Edwards, he's done magic for Liverpool over the last few years, but he's leaving at the end of this season. So his successor, James Ward, has worked on this deal. Ward has been charge of this deal, but Edwards has provided advice, so there's a bit of Edwards' influence, but it's
a handover deal.
Basically, handover successor. This is how we do things.
Deal.
Yeah, and it's Tottenham. I don't think Tottenham really had a. Because Tottenham were willing, it's worth pointing out, Tottenham were willing to spend all the money necessary to buy him. The reason they didn't is basically because Diaz wanted to play for Liverpool when he realised that he could go there. When the option became available, he chose Liverpool over Tottenham. So I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I would give Liverpool's transfer window a B+. Nothing really revolutionary. Like, they've got their established front three, might contribute. It's not going to win them the league this season. Good for the future, but not, definitive. Their entire future's not going to rely on this one transfer. But good. B+.
Liverpool didn't, because I'm minded to give them something like a B+ as well. Liverpool didn't really need strengthening in other positions as much.
No.
Did they?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
In which case, I would probably say B+ as well. I mean, Luis Diaz, very good signing. Solid all round, really.
I'm just wondering what would be an A. What would have been an A?
That's the thing. This is alongside Villa. This is the closest I'm getting to an A.
Yeah,
because of how good
close.
Diaz is. Because Diaz, he's one for the future, but he'll definitely play immediately.
Yeah, I guess immediate. It's difficult because what else do you do? But I don't know, because you've got that established front three already. It's not going to really change. I mean, there's very little I think that could change Liverpool's season at this point in time.
This allows Liverpool to compete for the trophies they're still in. League title is likely City's, but they have a League Cup final, they've got the FA Cup and the Champions League. So this improves squad depth and allows Klopp to rest players he otherwise may not have been able to rest. Because Diaz is a reliable backup, put it that way, at least.
It's also a smart piece of business in terms of that they are acknowledging that the front three is getting on, and they will need to have some ready-made replacements. So being able to integrate someone like Diaz into the team sooner than later, that's very smart decision, smart move.
I'm edging towards an A with this because
I'd give it an A if they got rid of Minamino to Leeds.
I rate Minamino. It's a shame he hasn't got more game time. He's not very strong, but tactically he's quite aware. He's quick, he's sharp. But I think keeping him is there's nothing wrong with that. So I'd probably say touching on an A for this one.
Yeah, I think A, and then if anything's better, we'll just add a plus at the end. Really,
it's
not
much. Star.
This is the best, definitely the best so far.
Man City. I mean,
they brought in a very promising
similar.
youngster.
Another Marquez South American signing.
They rate him very highly, and if they rate him, then I'm sure he'll do well.
He's been loaned straight back out, hasn't he? Back to River Plate.
Yeah. They don't need him yet, and he's not ready for the system. But basically, one for the future.
I was really thinking that with Man City is they're the team that really needs a new signing, really.
Exactly. So I guess it's a pretty non-existent window for this. The only major thing was Ferran Torres to Barcelona, right? But I mean, I don't know, excess, I guess.
I think they couldn't do much about that. Really,
they've loaned out loads of players, so they've thinned out the squad. And
Patrick Roberts is still. Sorry, I just noticed Patrick Roberts is.
I mean,
still...
they could have gone and bought Harry Kane, so it's not going to be that.
And they maybe in the summer. I remember they bought Grealish in the summer. That was their main piece of business, even though he hasn't played a lot.
Yeah, now grading that in retrospect, pretty poor.
Yes.
Especially the 100 million figure.
This window, it's really hard to grade this because they've not done anything, but they didn't need to do anything.
I'd say a B.
Yeah.
Because it's a good one for the future, but there's no negatives.
Boring.
B for one good signing, nothing else.
Yeah, B for boring.
And because Torres,
Speaking of boring,
I had Torres for his 18-pointer earlier in the season, so I was quite surprised to see him. I really liked him. I was disappointed that he didn't.
Barcelona's new front first 11 is going to be really weird. They've just picked up players from all over the place.
Ferran Torres, Traore, and Aubameyang. Meanwhile, on the red side of Manchester, so you got Axel Tuanzebe loaned out to Napoli, Martial loaned out to Sevilla.
Man United have been a chaotic mess this season, and they've done absolutely nothing to improve themselves here.
I think that I'd say, I don't want to get dramatic and use hyperbole, but the saga over Martial was almost a fiasco, really, when you've got two different voices coming out the club, one from the manager, one seemingly from the player, or people who are associated with the player. It's just, it's a bit disorganised there, to put it mildly, and they've got no one in.
Mess.
They need a CDM at least.
They needed reinforcement. They
definitely
needed to improve, and they haven't. And they've got rid of players that, maybe it wasn't working out, but they could have used.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely could have used Van der Beek.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give him an F.
Like, surely, in terms of that defensive midfielder
I agree with
thing,
you, Sam.
Like that central defensive midfielder thing, surely Van der Beek? Or am I thinking of Van der Beek wrongly here? Is it he can play in that?
He's more
position.
Forward thinking, really. Certainly with Ajax.
Yeah, it was more Frankie de Jong
people.
with Ajax, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The makes you wonder why. Like, I've
further
seen
up the
Man U
pitch.
fans. Like, I'm annoyed that Arsenal seemingly were in for Bruno Guimaraes, who we're going to get onto right after this. But that's the kind of signing that Man U fans are also looking at. Like, we need a defensive mid. Newcastle have somehow ended up
with it,
relatively cheap. Like, this is money that we have, and they have so much money. I don't know how they haven't looked at these players.
It also reminds me, because you have to be thinking about this in terms of not only their season ambitions, but what their rivals do. And United, when you look around, the teams around them haven't done much, so that might mitigate our score. But United needed to be proactive and bring someone in, certainly CDM at least, to push them up.
Yeah, I think the difference between Man United and, say, Arsenal is that I think Arsenal have earned where they are in the table this season, whereas Man United have got there through luck and individual skill.
Damn straight, Sam. Damn straight.
You've earned a Ben Brownie
So
point.
I think that's the difference. I think Man United are riding their luck, and I think that's why it's worse for them not to get anyone in than it is for Arsenal.
I would definitely give this an F.
Yeah, because do you remember that story not long ago where apparently Rangnick had said that Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and I think Luke Shaw as well, that they're not good enough for Man U. Well, then you'd think that would prompt Man U to go out and find some. Well, I mean, maybe not a whole new back line.
Some more defenders that they can spend £80 million on.
Perhaps they're doing that for the summer, if they do have a transfer plan.
Perhaps.
Maybe January's too soon and a bit too chaotic. Also, actually, this is worth noting, Man U's manager's going to change in the summer.
Not necessarily. They've said they're now considering keeping Rangnick on, which I don't know.
Dear.
Like, I know he's supposed to be super influential, but he's not really done much.
He's meant to be a director for 2 years. He's influential in terms of footballing philosophy and tactics.
But his impact on the team has not been all that great. They've not massively improved under him.
They haven't done badly. They haven't done well.
Well, but they haven't done badly because they've got a load of very good players.
They
They
haven't
couldn't
had
have
any
got
time.
much worse.
How long's he been in charge?
Couple of months,
Been enough time to really.
When was Solskjaer sacked? After Watford?
Wasn't it October?
After Watford, November, I think.
We've hardly had any time.
Because October was when they lost to City, Leicester 4-2, and Liverpool when they lost 5-0 to Liverpool at Old Trafford.
It was
5-0.
November.
They lost 5-0
So,
at Old Trafford.
Maybe he hasn't had the
5-0.
time, but he
They lost
certainly
5-0.
had the time to assess the team, and they've
5-0.
not brought anyone in.
They lost.
So
They lost 5-0. Conceded 5.
I'm going with F.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
F,
They
to
did free Van Boot, which is
Free
everybody likes that.
free Twanzebe. I'd say if I'm being generous, it's an E, but I think F, because they should have done a lot more.
Yeah.
And
I'd say the same probably. I think I keep agreeing.
Transfer
with you,
window.
Jack.
Yes,
Yeah, what Jack said.
consensus.
Furious nodding.
Furious agreement.
Newcastle United.
This one could potentially be an A, in the sense that they have definitely gone full out. All out. That's it. That's the phrase I was looking for.
They've brought players in, and they've brought players in who were
Experienced.
improvements.
Definitely.
Premier League.
They've been as proactive as we expected them, or assumed they'd need to be. They've definitely not just sat back and expected their current squad to deal with avoiding relegation. So
I think the most questionable one is probably Chris Wood for that amount of money. But when you consider that they're impacting Burnley in that,
that's probably the key reason they did it. Honestly.
Yeah.
Also, is money an issue for Newcastle anymore?
No, probably not. Which is another matter.
But if Weghorst kicks on for Burnley,
yeah,
they'll be like,
damn.
Time will tell.
Wood could do well in the system that allows Trippier to bang those crosses in.
I don't think this is the waves that people were expecting.
No.
Like, I mean, Chris Wood and Trippier, sure, and then sort of it was a
Dan Burn, he's a local lad, and he'll help improve the defence because he was really competent at Brighton. Target again, a bit more legs and experience in midfield, and Bruno Guimaraes is really good signing.
Probably
so they've got you could argue they've got a marquee signing as such, and then 4 very competent additions.
Yeah.
Of course, if they suddenly start playing all these at once, they might not have their functional team. So it depends how they put them together. But on the transfers, it's not like they've not replaced the whole team, which is good because you don't want to replace the entire team.
They did loan Jeff Hendrick out to QPR. So yeah.
Okay.
Oh no!
I'd
Anyway,
A for them.
Oh no!
I don't know. I'd probably go with an A for them. It looks very good, even with the bit of chaotic context from the last few days.
I'd agree. I'd say possible A, definitely B plus. I'm kind of in between A and B here.
It is one of those.
It would have been a B, but Bruno is really impressive. As you mentioned earlier, other clubs with ostensibly stronger drawing power were interested in him, but they've managed to get him. So I'm sliding into an A.
Yeah,
I think A as well.
It's no worse than Liverpool. I'm just thinking of Liverpool. Basing it off that.
When you think about it, the only negative thing you can think of about Newcastle is the fact that they've got limited time in which to blend these players in. But the signings themselves are all good.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, how quickly will these make an impact, and will they? It's still very tight down there, and especially with Everton being dragged into the mix. Who's Newcastle's next game? Is it Everton?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Very interesting game.
So and obviously they just beat Leeds. I don't know. They have every chance because they've still got that. They're better than Burnley. They're better than Watford probably.
And they also brought in.
Especially with these signings.
I think we mentioned in a previous episode about Newcastle's potential signings that it would be ideal if they brought in players with plenty of experience in the Premier League, because when you're fighting a battle, the last thing you need is to bring in newbies who have no idea. Yeah. And 4 of those 5 have got plenty of experience.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed.
I'd go with an A because I think they've given themselves the best possible chance.
Who are they? I'm thinking of their current team. I wonder which players are. I don't know how much you know about I don't know much about the current Newcastle first team. I'm just thinking of the likes of Kieran Clark, who are somehow still kicking around, stealing a living. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the players that are getting the players that are going to get displaced. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky, but they might not need to replace them to make them better, because you can have competition for places can improve players, force them to improve as well. So
I think the case with Newcastle is probably players that have been playing in the first team are more suited to being squad players.
I forgot Bruno was midfielder.
You know what I mean? Can you explain
so
that?
That's a good addition to the.
I think it'll go well.
It's an average squad, but then you add Bruno to it.
They've got Paul Dummett. They're still playing Paul Dummett. Not to say anything.
Joe Linton and his new guys. I think they've added competence all over the pitch, so it's good. Definitely good from Newcastle.
Yeah.
We shall see if it works.
What was your letter grade, James?
It was A as well. Yeah.
Ben?
Oh yeah, A. Yeah.
Norwich City.
Lots of outgoings, including Todd Cantwell. to Bournemouth.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
which is interesting to Bournemouth because I think a couple Premier League teams were interested in it.
I'm
so
surprised
interesting
that Dean Ashton... that's not Dean Ashton.
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith. Not Dean Ashton. They're all the same to me, honestly, once you get up to my age. I think he would have been keen on bringing at least one person in. Norwich's squad does not have a lot of quality.
No.
I think that this was the biggest disaster that Norwich could have because their owners said they want to stay in the league. If you want to stay in the league,
you need to improve that squad.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it's not like, do Norwich have major injuries right now, like Leicester or Leeds?
Really? No.
And they've just not improved their squad, and their squad is ill-equipped.
I'm really surprised at Cantwell because I figured that he was supposed to be one of their key players, but maybe not then if they're prepared to loan him out to Bournemouth.
It's been an attitude thing, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Oh, right.
He's gotten a bit big for his nice football boots.
I see.
Yes.
Big, too big for his boots in Norwich. Okay.
The problem is with Norwich. So Norwich are just outside the relegation zone, aren't they? Just above Watford and Newcastle.
They're not on a good run of form. Well, they're on a decent run of form, but they've
won 2 games in a row.
There's no guarantee they'll sustain it.
Did they win 2 games in a row?
They beat Watford 3-0, and who else did they beat?
It was.
They beat
Everton. That's it. They beat relegation rivals.
Yeah. So their last game was Watford, Norwich. Yeah. So they've won the last 2 games in a row. Their next one's against Palace. But the problem is they're only 1 point above, I think, Watford, 2 points above Newcastle. They've brought no one in. They've arguably got rid of a player that they could have used, or rather, they have got rid of a player that they could have used for potentially attitude reasons, which is fair enough if a player's
you don't need that in your team.
Yeah, but squad harmony won't get you.
Bring down.
You can't. You can't rely on squad harmony to keep you in the Premier League, can you? So
no.
Well, I get why they pushed Cantwell on. They needed to bring someone in.
They did. Absolutely, they did.
We've called them a yo-yo club either last week. I don't know, one of our other podcasts, but one of the other episodes. But I don't know how much of this is sort of like they said they want to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah.
How much of it is really? How much?
That was more of an angry reaction by the director, I think.
They brought Dean Smith in. They've obviously, they've talked to him, and he has improved Norwich's outlook.
Yeah,
like they won 1 game with Daniel Farke, and they've won. Is it 3 games now under Dean Smith? I think so. I think they're on 4 wins now total. So, and 2 of those in a row.
I suppose it's level of ambition, really. Maybe they're thinking in the long term. Dean Smith can also get us out from the Championship, but has proven experience at keeping a team in. Maybe that's how they're thinking it. Maybe the long term is down and up, but the next stop they stay up.
But then that was supposed to be it last time.
Yeah.
Go down, come up, and stay up this time. So
that wasn't Dean Smith, though, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No, it was Dean Ashton.
Dean Smith. But it's it's really difficult to give them anything but an F from me because
I agree.
I didn't hear anything
they
about their
needed
window.
someone.
Or window, I just didn't hear, apart from the Cantwell attitude stuff. I had nothing.
I didn't even hear about that.
What a peep.
Yeah. I mean, a player coming in that they could have signed 1 or 2 players that would have improved the squad, especially when Watford and Newcastle and even Burnley are signing players.
And
so, big
improved the
fat
first
F
11
from me.
in particular. Yeah, F for me.
Same here.
F for Norwich.
F for Norwich.
F for Norwich.
Forwich.
Norwich,
is that
more
an
like
F from
Forwich.
you as well, then, James?
Yep, F as well.
F's in the chat for Norwich.
F in the chat.
F in the chat.
And we arrive at Southampton.
They got Caballero. Yes.
For free.
They also got bought out.
Oh, yeah.
They did.
So the signing is the club itself.
The club. Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, I guess.
They could have done with another. They replaced Ings, I think, fairly effectively. Although he hasn't done a lot since the replacement. What's his name again? Armstrong.
Armstrong, yeah.
He's okay. Caballero, new striker. They're relying partly on Ward-Prowse free kicks. But
yeah, I was going to say it's another club that they don't look in any danger this season, but they also don't look dangerous.
They develop talent,
like
but they
not
always
in
sell it.
danger.
Yeah. But it's a balancing act for Southampton because if they sell too many players, then they're in trouble, which happened a few years ago. So I think they're just trying to find that balance again between, okay, move that guy on, but replace him with someone who's going to do a good job.
Oh, I didn't realize. I just noticed Sam McQueen is outgoing. It just says outgoing, and then I noticed it says retirement, and I thought, hang on, Sam McQueen. I don't think I've heard his name. I don't think he's not old, and it says he's 26.
Oh wow!
And he spent 3 years trying to come back from an ACL in his right knee, and he's retired.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's a shame.
I had read about that. Yeah.
Hopefully he gets into coaching or something because the drop off from can be quite severe from that kind of culture, that livelihood. And that was his life really.
Yeah.
If you're reaching that level in a team, then you've been in an academy for most of your life.
Yeah, I guess it's sad. It's always sad when someone has to retire out of something that they don't want to. When they don't want to retire, but are sort of pushed into it by an injury or an illness. I think Aguero as well had to as well.
Yeah, well, at least Aguero had that good career.
Yeah,
Aguero. Yeah, the difference is he had a good career.
Jury's out, to be fair.
That could also be more devastating, right? Because he had a good career. He wanted to finish his career well, and he
I suppose
couldn't.
The ambitions have been set so high, but
yeah,
it's a shame for that guy. Southampton, I'd say
nothingness. C minus. They didn't really need
nothing
anyone,
good, nothing bad.
Very inoffensive.
Did they?
I'm getting the impression our scale is from A to F. So yeah, C.
C.
Tottenham
Ben,
Hotspur.
What was your letter grade for Southampton?
Mine. Oh.
Come on, Ben.
So like what we're saying, out of F.
Between A and
I
F.
said Spurs for no reason.
Between A and Spurs.
Let's just C. I'll say C.
Yeah.
It's just
Cool.
make me think.
What was you,
I
James?
will say C as well, in keeping with the consensus.
Consensus for the win.
Yeah, Spurs.
Juventus,
Spurs,
can we have your players?
This is one of those.
Yeah.
This is one of those incomings. For a lot of people, the opinion on it. Their opinion on incomings will depend on what they've seen other people say. Like I don't know how many people watch Juventus regularly.
Bentancur's decent. I haven't really seen the other player though.
Kulusevski.
Another Rodrigo.
Yeah,
He's one of the most promising young Swedish players, Swedish forwards.
Kulusevski, yeah.
And he's done a bit of a I think opinion on him has been a bit like Bernardeschi for Juventus, when he had a huge hype, it was doing really well for a bit, and then all of a sudden he's dropped off this season, not had as much of a positive impact.
It's better than nothing.
Bentancur I know as being a very sort of combative kind of workhorse midfielder type.
Yeah. I thought he was good. I thought he was good for Uruguay as well.
Yeah.
So it was a bit surprising to see that Juventus were quite happy to be rid of him.
Actually, fun fact, he is now only the second Uruguayan player in the entire English Football League, alongside Cavani. I tried checking to see if there are any other Uruguayan footballers in the English Football League. It's just
Bring back
Cavani and
Suarez.
Bentancur.
Bring back
Torreira
Suarez.
coming back. Torreira, we'll definitely get rid of Torreira in the summer, probably.
That could be another episode. Who's the best Uruguayan to have played in the Premier League?
Abel
Suarez.
Hernandez.
Gus Poyet.
I just noticed that they sent Jack Clark out on loan to Sunderland.
Who have also signed Jermaine Defoe.
Yeah, their outgoings are extremely interesting.
Yeah, I think Tottenham's overall situation is about kind of expectations. They expected to get more players than they did.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say they had a great window.
Conte wanted players.
He wanted players. Diaz, they were serious on Diaz. So
the signings they did make look quite a bit like the sort of signings that Arsenal could have made but didn't. The other sort of signing that maybe our fans might have wanted us to make. So instead of not spending anything, they've gone for these slight gambles.
There's nothing amazing about their transfer window, but it's made so. Were it not for the Diaz, not getting Diaz, I'd say this would probably be between a B and a C. But because of the failure to get Diaz, I'd probably drop it down.
It's funny looking at the outgoings. as like a non-Spurs, like not keep. If you didn't keep up with them, you might think that these are huge names going out, good players that they've let go, but they've not been.
Ali,
Lo Celso, like they've all underperformed.
Brian Gill as well.
I think we can trust. Yeah.
And Gil, well, yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Trust a Conte to know who's good enough.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna rank them. I don't know, B minus, because it feels better than a C. You've got some potentially good incomings.
Yeah, between B and a C, I'd say.
Yeah.
Even though there's some big names going out, they are players that aren't performing, and why keep them on your wage books?
I'm intrigued to see.
No, actually, no. I'll stick with C because Diaz brings it down.
Yeah,
a bit,
fair enough. Yeah. I'm intrigued to see more of Bentancur because I'm always intrigued to see Uruguayan footballers.
Yeah.
I've always just been very intrigued by the fact that Uruguay is a country of like 3.5 million people, but they still consistently produce like very good footballers. So yeah,
I guess their youth setup. How many young Uruguayans play football, and what kind of football do they play? Because I know in Suarez's case, when he grew up, he was playing football on the street, which improved your technical nous, and it made you very competitive.
Yeah, it's just a country that is just very obsessed with football, and so that culture, no doubt breeds a lot of pretty decent players
with good mentalities as well, determined to win. So yeah, I'd say C-ish for Tottenham. Is that Hakim C-ish?
I'd say maybe between B and C, so a C plus. I suppose that's between a C sharp.
A C natural.
I see.
I'm gonna give them a B to put pressure on them. They'll feel.
Well, I gave them a B minus, I think so. Yeah. Whoa, getting to the end now.
Whoa, guys! Check out my mixtape. Watford. Brought in 4.
They got Samir from Udinese, who I'm pretty sure was playing in that game against Norwich, and was like one of the goals by Josh. I think it was that really good finish by Josh Sargent. I think that started from a Samir mistake. I think out on that left wing. Well, sorry, left flank.
Right.
Their left flank.
Anything else?
Their Watford's left flank. Watford Football Club's left side of the pitch.
Of course, they're another team like Everton who have switched managers during the transfer window, which, again, isn't helpful.
So another signing, basically.
Who is it now? Hodgson.
Yes.
Hodgson, yeah. So which of these players came in pre-Hodgson, and which ones came, if any, post-Hodgson?
Hodgson.
And has Hodgson been sacked yet?
I think their best signing's definitely Hodgson. He's the most likely to keep them up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Hodgson is. In that case, let's chalk it off to an 8. No.
I'd say B for Watford, primarily because of the manager.
It's a fairly good point.
He does the job,
but also at this point of the season, we saw it with Big Sam last season with West Brom. At a certain point, it's just too late.
To be fair, when Roy took over Palace in 2017, it was early in the season because the previous manager had been poor.
Well, this is Watford's 3rd manager this season. It's really hard to see. I personally don't see Roy keeping them up. I think it's too late, and he came in towards the end of the transfer window, and again, you don't have time to assess your squad and make those changes. So, yeah, I don't know. But then again, they brought in 5 players, and Norwich brought in none. Yeah. Burnley, it's if these players are an improvement, then
I'd say between the B and the C, maybe.
Yeah, I'll go with the B.
C. Just a log standard.
I'd say C as well, because while yes they have got Hodgson, at the same time, I don't know. I really wonder about Watford, and even like bringing in someone like Hodgson, I don't really see them staying up.
Agent Roy.
It's a chaotic mess, isn't it?
They've got Dennis can pull anything out of
his ass.
Well, yeah, I suppose is that. Did they need new players, or did they just need a new manager?
Watford are like, you know when you go and look in the fridge for food, but you're like you just keep checking like new manager.
Not yet.
Into the manager fridge.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go a very low B minus minus. First minus.
That's pretty much a C, isn't it?
It's pretty much a C. It's yeah. But I'm gonna say B minus because Hodgson. I'm giving Hodgson that little minus.
What about West Ham? How do you think they've done?
I think
failed to buy Calvin Phillips. Failed to buy Rafinha.
Why would they bid on Calvin Phillips?
That was all talk.
Yeah, exactly. It must have been all talk because Calvin Phillips is injured still for another month at least. So he's not going to help them get into the top 4. So it was never going to be a signing that was going to bring immediate improvement to the squad. Maybe a signing that they want. So why would they do that for this season?
They're planting the seed, Sam. They're planting the seed.
The seeds of doubt have been sown.
You could want to bring in the player before summer when more clubs might be interested, but 50 million. I mean, they value Rice at well over 100 million, and they think that Leeds are going to sell Phillips for 50. Yeah. It seemed very performative.
Yeah.
As did their Rafinha bid.
And you can clearly see this is not money that ended up being used elsewhere. They've gotten nobody.
And I don't think they impressed anyone with that kind of thing, which is why it's going to... I'm thinking of giving them a D, really.
Yeah. They undervalued in their bid to a team that had absolutely no chance of selling their best players. So...
It was unrealistic.
It was very performative.
Yeah,
but then again, we're in a really good position. I don't know how much strengthening.
Maybe it's centre back.
Centre back, probably.
If Bonner gets back, then they'll be okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like they probably need some strengthening at centre back because they are quite reliant on Craig Dawson at the minute, who could be good as like an occasional sort of backup centre back, but as your starting centre back, that's not going to get you top 4.
No, I think Nat Phillips. I think Nat Phillips would have been very useful for West Ham.
Maybe.
He's got Premier League experience. He's highly competent. He's good with his feet.
I thought Ogbonna was still good. I thought they still had...
Ogbonna's
he's
good.
Very injured. He's extremely injured.
Naldini Phillips, as he's known, would have been very, very good.
I think the difference between West Ham and some other teams we've talked about is that they needed to strengthen because they are trying to push for a top 4 spot against teams that are very, very good.
And who have just strengthened as well.
And who have more squad depth.
They need to... West Ham a great first 11, but a weaker squad. They needed to sustain that, and they didn't. And more than that, they kind of took the mick by ostensibly bidding for 2 of Leeds' best players. So it's a D from me. I'm siding towards E as well, D for me.
Yeah,
sounds harsh.
I'd probably say E as well, because I'm just thinking, actually, like... what do they really have as a backup for Mikel Antonio?
I was just
because I seem to remember looking on Transfermarkt once, just peering at the squad to see like who they've got in terms of centre forward options. The only one listed was Mikel Antonio. I know before they had Sebastian Haller, and I'm kind of surprised they haven't gone for another striker. Really.
Yeah, it's really in the context of them wanting to push for top 4. It's total waste of a window.
Yeah,
they're in danger of not getting top 6 if they suffer a couple of bad injuries or a bad run of form. And that's where players could have come in.
I think fortunate for them, Arsenal, Tottenham, United, and maybe Wolves haven't done a lot.
No, but
so I think that means that they've still got a chance.
Have bigger squads.
Yeah,
I was going to say some of those teams have bigger squads, but Arsenal just decimated their squad. Tottenham's got rid of a couple of big name players and not brought anyone in, and Man United didn't bring anyone in either. So yeah, I don't know, a risk.
West Ham are not injury ridden at all, which is just one difference. Like
for the time being, at least
for now. Yeah,
they had Kurt Zuma out.
A risk.
I think
is he back now?
On FPL, the only
a couple of them have recovered over the window. That's the case for most.
Well, then that's that's kind of almost new signing-esque for them.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm going to stick and say that this was a risky window.
I am delighted with that answer.
West Ham E.
West Ham United.
This is like one of those It's like a flash scores synopsis.
You're not getting out of this, Ben. What's your letter grade?
For West Ham, anything for West Ham. I was going to say a C because they loaned out Connor Coventry just for the C's. But no, I'm going to say a D. I won't give it as bad as a E or F. But I really like the first team. It's really good if they can sell through. I don't know how many competitions they're in, but if they don't get any injuries.
League and are they still in the FA Cup?
Yeah, I think they're still in the They beat Leeds.
Europa League
Yeah, they're
as
still
well.
in the Europa League, so yeah.
And I think Europa League might take their focus, actually, depending on what happens in the
Because fighting on that many fronts, I'm not too sure they have the squad for that.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, that's another reason.
I don't think you have the facilities for that big man.
Let's
that
wander
guy.
over.
Yes. Oh, I want to bump it down. I want to bump it down because I'm looking at West Ham season as a whole and just the squad. I like everything about everything else, but the window in isolation and I suppose in connection with the rest of the season is just underwhelming. I'm going to give that a big, even worse F than everyone else.
Wow.
You've done it now, West Ham. The shirts are coming off, the gloves are going on. Boxing gloves. Anyway.
Okay, so Ben gives it an F.
Yep.
Let's wander over to Wolves.
Their squad has gotten smaller in one sense. In one sense of losing Adama Traore to Barcelona. I say losing, but only a loan. But I still think even with his lack of goals and assists, he's probably still a player worth having around, surely.
Yeah, that's it seems like a bit of a woof. Why?
Because they're not exactly they're not swimming in depth. A lot like West Ham, really. They haven't got great. They've got a lot more injuries as well.
Yeah.
So let's see. So they bought.
A bit underwhelming. Wolves is.
They bought. Is that Kawabe? And loaned him straight out.
Yep. Got Jaquinho from Estoril.
Yeah. Is he a first team signing? I assume.
It's priced at 5.5. I don't know what that says.
They haven't brought any dynamic signings in, but they've done it before. They have brought in young players we haven't heard of who've done well.
Yeah. Also worth noting, Wolves solid. Like,
Yep.
are they trying to push for Europe? Maybe. In which case they should probably maybe have tried to do a bit more. But I mean, they're solid at the back. They don't really need to strengthen at the back, do they?
Not really.
Goal scoring, they could be. Doing
Actually,
Chiquinho,
he is actually a Portuguese winger, so he's likely a sort of immediate replacement for Traore as he's out on loan to Barcelona. In terms of defence, no, they probably didn't need strengthening because they've actually had one of the better defensive records this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've got Johnny. I know they've got Johnny coming back from injury fairly soon. Apparently, they've got Bolly still out injured.
Yeah.
Have they improved in what they've done, or have they just sort of settled for what they have?
A mixture of that, I think.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I'm going to go with a C.
Yeah, I'll go C.
Cop out. C for cop out.
I gave West Ham an F for doing nothing, pretty much.
Yes, but
I hate
but West Ham are in a bit of a more tenuous position than Wolves, right? So Wolves are very strong and sort of building, whereas West Ham are actively pushing for a top 4 spot.
West Ham can score goals though. Wolves.
So what was everyone's letter grades for Wolves?
Really just a C, I think. I mean, just like they so Traore's gone off to Barcelona and they brought in Chiquinho, presumably as a replacement, like an immediate replacement for Traore, but also as like a more long-term signing because he is quite a young winger. But yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, pretty average in that sense.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
The flies went out to CCC. Ben?
E.
Okay.
E.
Ben with these hot takes, an E.
Welcome to the end of this episode. Tune in next week for the start of next week's episode.